We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and support the recognition of traditional Aboriginal law across the nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging on this land. Hello, I am Jenna Chanel Hayes and this is the Loving Podcast. In a world of sexual abuse scandals, the Me Too movement and a general increased awareness of all forms of abuse against women globally, radical feminism seems to be ever present and on the rise. And obviously, as a woman, I am all for breaking down the patriarchy and fighting for equal standing in this world. I am absolutely 100% a feminist. But something I'm noticing today is that I'm feeling a constant and deep compassion for most men around the world, because they're a product of the patriarchy too, and they're also being faced with the fact that they have been taught many unhealthy beliefs about the world and about their place in it. I met today's guest while creating my series Sisters. He is such a wonderful man. He's a men's work healer and a relationships, intimacy and sexuality coach. Welcome to Loving, Mr. Nic Tovey.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here.
Good. Okay, so Nic, I'm going to start with a big one. What does it mean to be a man in today's world?
Oh, gosh. Well, as it happens, I'm about to release a book on exactly this subject.
Are
it's
you?
coming out in a couple of weeks.
Oh, amazing.
So there's no answer.
Yeah,
there's no answer. And I think that's the important thing, is that we're at a time which is radically different to the answers to that question have been in the past. We're at a point in the history of humanity, in the evolutionary story of humanity, where we're reinventing and reestablishing and reassessing the answer to that question. As a man, as a woman, as every different form of human there can be. So I guess my approach to that is there is no answer. We have the whole spectrum available to us of humanity available to us, and I feel that one of the challenges we've faced in the past is that we have boxed ourselves into certain categories according to our gender, according to our sexual orientation, which have prevented us from just being us as a human being in the world.
You know, there's obviously the rise of radical feminism, and I think it's very difficult to navigate society as a man today. You know, the constant sexual abuse scandals hitting the headlines, the growing awareness of domestic violence and abuse against women around the world. You know, there's just so much information that is showing us how badly women are being treated today throughout history. So I do understand that has to be so difficult for men, because especially if you're a good man and you wake up every day trying to be a good man, but you're being told you're bad because you're a man. Do you have any advice for men, for women, for people in regards to, I guess, combating or dealing with that, or just living in today's society?
Well, that's a big question, and it is. It's such a challenge that I think we're all facing, as you said. You know, these are really, really important issues that we have been facing, and thank goodness we have. We've got thousands of years of patriarchy that we're trying to unravel ourselves from in some ways. So we're in this point where we are asking those serious questions and really addressing all of those really serious issues, and we've done a lot of really amazing work to do that. And as a negative byproduct of that, there's some of the things you've mentioned around the fact that just as a man, there's this overarching apology that we need to make in a lot of ways, or at least we feel we need to make. It's like, just by the fact that I happen to be born in a male body, I have to apologize for my existence in a lot of ways. And that's obviously not an easy thing to come to terms with, because I haven't done anything wrong, yet my gender has. And how do I hold that? How do I take responsibility for that as a man, as a human being, and also recognize that, you know, I also am my own unique version of a man in the world, and how can I do that in a way which is authentic, which is real, which is free from any bullshit trappings that I have to conform to, you know? So it's a real bind we find ourselves in today, I think, for both men and for women and all different humans. It's like, how the hell do we work this out? You know, we're all in this place where the old ideas of what it means to be a man, to be a woman, they're just been dismantled. And how do we work these things out in a way which works for us today? No one's done this before. And I think this is the important thing to recognize, is we're living in a moment asking questions and trying to work things out without any examples of how to do that. So the men from my generation and younger generations look for examples of how to be a good man for today. They're just not there. They're not there. They don't work for today. So it's a difficult one to work out. It's a difficult question to answer for ourselves. So there was a question in your question. It was like, you know, do I have any advice? And I think the core thing is to recognize that we're okay. We are not a bad person because we happen to be born with testicles. You know, there is a lot to work out. There's a lot of great men out there. There's a lot of great things about being a man, which are really, really important for us all to celebrate. And finding our place, to find that ownership, that recognition, that celebration of our humanness as men in the world. It's a difficult one to come to. Because the world doesn't necessarily join us in that celebration. So my advice would be, you know, find good men to be around. Ask the questions for yourself around what's important to you, just as a human being. What are the things that are important to you? What are the values that you uphold? What are the causes in the world that break your heart that you want to stand up for?
So thinking beyond gender.
Thinking beyond gender, thinking bigger than our own self, and recognizing that, you know, we are here to bring something to the world. Do
you think also trying not to be defensive? I think that's a big one for not just men, but for white people, for everybody. Really put yourself in other people's shoes and work to understand who they are, how they're suffering, why they're suffering, so you can actually have compassion and lose all defensiveness. Because if you've got your defenses up, then you can't connect. There's no connection at all. You can't penetrate the wall in front of you. So, I think in hearing a lot of men be challenged by this moment in time, it's a really big one.
Totally. And there's sort of two responses that I think a lot of men are making to, I guess, the feminist movement and the feminist rhetoric. And one of those is to, like we were talking about before, is to believe that, okay, as a man, I'm fundamentally wrong. I have to be something different to what all men have been in the past, which isn't necessarily the right way to go. And then the other version is, well, screw you, I'm going to be a stronger, more powerful, more oppressive version of what I've been in the past. So where the defenses really come in. And both options there are defensive tactics. And it's like, okay, where can we find the middle ground in there, which is about connection, is about openness, is about recognition that we're all in this together. And there's really good reason for us to be really redesigning what it means, what gender means, what sexuality means at this time.
What connection means.
What connection means.
True, authentic connection, because a lot of times through history there's been no connection. It's been very one way.
Totally.
And as I think women begin to stand in their power, continue to stand in their power, that's not going away.
No.
Which is so beautiful and wonderful and exciting. Let's all just buy into that. Let's all celebrate women. If women are celebrated, if anybody is celebrated, they're going to want to celebrate. So if men are celebrating women, women are going to want to celebrate men, But if people are wanting to not listen, then that's where the fight is.
That's where we create more distance between ourselves. And I think what happens, and I think this happens in a lot of relationships, is that we end up fighting for our right to be the biggest victim. Yeah. And that's just not going to get us far. We want to be empowering each other. We want to be empowering ourselves and lifting each other up and walking side by side into the future and recreating and designing our lives and our relationships and the way in which we connect, the way in which we treat each other, doing that together. Shoulder to shoulder, side by side, heart to heart, rather than seeing each other as the enemy. Because there is no enemy.
One of the things I think I struggle with in relationships is maintaining my voice as a woman, and as a little girl, obviously, I was told to be quiet, put in my place. So as a woman, I'll go into a relationship strong. And it's great. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be perfect at relationships moving forward because I know. But recognizing that my emotions are valid, because most of my partners have made me feel like my emotions are not valid, which is just learned behavior as a man. It's a learned behavior that hopefully is being broken down. But also, equally, I allowed that to happen. So I have to take ownership of that and figure out moving forward how to navigate that and how not to do that, how to maintain my voice, how to stand in my power. Because if I'm standing in my power, then I'm showing up to the relationship in the best possible way I can. In saying that, I guess what, in this moment in time, you as a relationship coach, what do you find are the most... Are there some common challenges, I guess?
Of course there are. And, you just mentioned one of them, and of course that goes both ways. It's like, okay, how can we be with each other's feeling, be with each other's emotion, regardless of, what body we happen to be living inside of, and how can we be with our own emotion and make that come from a place of personal responsibility rather than I'm feeling something, you need to do something for me. And part of the, I guess, coming back to the gender redesign that we're, the grand experiment that we're in, is there's a desire for men to be more emotionally attuned, more emotionally available, better at communicating, all of those things.
From women or from men as well?
Well, I think from women, but also I think from society in general. I think that's just what the moment is requiring. So it's like, how can men do that from a place of that's authentic to them, and how can women meet them in that? And that's not always an easy thing to do for women. This is part of the challenge that we're facing. Is okay, we've got thousands of years. Men are dealing with thousands of years of conditioning around, not showing our emotion, blocking down vulnerability, protecting at all cost. And so are women. Women are dealing with men in that fashion. So it's like, so what happens as a woman? What happens if your man loses his shit? If he breaks down and he's no longer dependable, is no longer solid.
There's nothing more attractive to me than a vulnerable man.
And you'll be surprised at how many men get rejected because of that. Because they show their vulnerability, because they let their stability go. So it's a challenge that we face, because it can, and I'm generalizing, but it can, and I've seen this many, many times. I've experienced it myself. When a man is not in his strength, when he's not holding himself together, when he's having a moment where he's collapsing, he's feeling broken, he's feeling really vulnerable, it can shake and again, this is an old patterning that we're working with here. It can shake a woman's desire for him to be her rock. So if we're dealing with that old patterning, it's going to come up from the unconscious. So it's not necessarily something that she may be aware of that she's doing. But what I've seen on many occasions is, okay, he's not dependable, so I'll be the man in the situation. I'll draw on my masculinity and my solidity, and which is, not a bad thing to do, except when it comes at the expense of his heart. When he then becomes rejected because he is not being that, is not being that solid rock. So it's a tricky one.
Is it okay for her to feed off her masculine energy in order to support him?
Absolutely.
But a lot of women they're feeding off their masculinity, but then also rejecting his
They're feeding off their masculine energy to support themselves.
And not him.
And not necessarily him. Yeah. So again, it's a learning. It's a new learning that we have to do in this day and age. Yeah. And of course, like I said, it's a generalization, but this is a common issue that I find. So there's this conflicting message that a lot of men receive in that their women want them to be vulnerable, want them to be open, want them to show their heart. And when they do, which, let's face it, that's a big deal. That's a big ask. Yeah. It's a big ask for a man to be vulnerable when he's dealing with thousands of years of conditioning. Yeah. So when he does, and then he's not held in a way which works, he's going to lock his heart up forever. Yeah, and that's an unfortunate thing, of course.
Yeah, I'm like going through my brain. It's like,
when have I done this?
Yeah, have I been okay? Are they all okay? Are they all my exes? Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, it's something we're all learning.
Yeah. Do you feel like this change in, like this moment in time, do you feel like it's actually, it seems like it's dividing the sexes, but do you feel like it's actually bringing them together?
My view, it is, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So my sense is we're at a great transition point. Yeah, we're still very much in the transition point, and we may always be in a transition point. Yeah, that's evolution, right? But we're in this place where I feel there's a let's say teething issues where we're fumbling, we're trying to work out how to be together, how to be authentic, how to be real in our own self, and be able to, I guess, call upon the whole spectrum of masculine and feminine essences within ourselves, regardless of our body, regardless of our sexual orientation. So there's a bit of a fumbling that we have to do in that, and we're going to make mistakes, we're going to get it wrong, we're going to screw things up at times, and that's okay. And it's like allowing each other the freedom, the capacity to be human. To screw it up. And I think a lot of, I guess, the relationships, the people that are, let's say, more consciously exploring these areas of gender fluidity and relationships, conscious relationships and such, in those communities, I think we can often be even more hard on ourselves because we have to get things right. I'm this conscious human being and I need to be a certain way and I need to be...
Don't fail.
And of course our relationships then can become just like hard work.
Pressured. Constant pressure, expectation, which you shouldn't have. You should keep the expectations to a minimal, right?
Well, yeah, definitely. And also allow the humanness, allow each other to screw it up.
I'm quite stubborn and quite, it's challenging, because you're essentially looking at your mirror. I think every romantic relationships, friendships, whatever it is, you're always looking at your mirror because you're looking at the world from your own perception, which is your own life experience. Obviously, the romantic relationships heighten those triggers. So it's a lot of work.
I always say the best arena for personal growth is intimate relationship because we're faced with our perfect mirror and they're going to push our buttons and they're going to revel in it. So for me, I think one of the number one tools for good relationship is recognizing that they are a mirror and that, everything that I get triggered in, every behavior that they exhibit that pisses me off, that's not about them. It's about me. And every place I go to in my emotions, every way in which I just want to blame them for being wrong, for being bad, for being, shit at relationship or just an utterly bad person.
Yeah.
That's not about them.
Yeah.
It's about me.
Yeah.
It's my lens that I'm seeing the world through. It's my emotional triggers. It's my childhood wounding that's being activated.
Yeah.
And I need to take responsibility for that and not put it on them.
So, how does one take responsibility?
Good question.
Do they call you?
Well, that's one way. That's definitely. But firstly, we need to be aware that we're feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's just having that emotional awareness, recognizing that, okay, there's something going on inside of me. And when I'm feeling this way, I tend to act like a dick. And I want to blame somebody else. I want to make them wrong for the way that I'm feeling. I want to fix the issue. I want to get away from it in some way. And if we can look at that and recognize, okay, look what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? Look, there's a feeling going on inside my body. What is that feeling? It's fear.
Most often?
Always. Always. Anything that is exhibited outside is generally coming from a fear response inside. So we may see anger, we may see sadness, we may see resentment. If you dig a little deeper, it's fear.
It's all fear.
I'm terrified of being rejected. I'm terrified of you seeing my brokenness. I'm terrified of
being abandoned,
failing at being a man, a woman, or whatever it is.
Which all stems back to being unworthy. It's all, I feel unworthy.
A lot of this comes down to that, what we were talking about right at the beginning, is this box of, particularly I speak from the manhood perspective, this box that I need to aspire to as a man. And this pressure that being a man means I have to do this, and this.
What are this, and this?
Well, now it's none, We're throwing them out. We're throwing the list out.
Yes. It used to be, bottle it up, don't show your emotions, be a man.
Be a man. What does that mean? That's the opening lines to my book. Be a man, grow a pair, all of those terms that we so readily use and still today, have some balls. What does that even mean?
Well, I'm joking. I'm joking.
But it's like these terms that are telling me as a man there's a measure that I need to aspire to, that I need to live up to. And if I don't live up to that, I'm screwed. I'm tossed to the side. I'm a pussy. I'm gay. I'm whatever it is. But whatever it is less than a man. It's inferior, and I failed. So there's this measure of manhood that I constantly need to be reaching, which I'm never reaching.
And while you're reaching, you're completely disconnecting from the woman, from anybody in your life.
From life, from reality, from being connected to my body, being connected to my feeling, being connected to the world, to anything. We're screwed when we're trying to do that. And of course, the same thing's happening for women and all different people. But it's particularly strong, I think, at this point when in manhood.
Yeah, and I feel that there is support for women. The momentum is with women, and as it should be. But also, let's not be hard on men because they're navigating it as well, And we're all beautiful.
Totally.
Yeah.
You mentioned a point there. Of course, it's super important that we reassess how we treat women and the options and power that's available to women. But we can't forget the other half of the population in the process. This is a full cultural revolution that we're in, and we're all involved in, and we all need to work out together how we do that.
It's not, we women are fighting for our rights. It's all about us. Us fighting for our rights means that men have to go inward and look at all the learned behaviours that are no longer going to be allowed in society, locker room banter. I really don't like sports, football, all of that, because the way it makes me feel as a woman, it feels barbaric to me. It doesn't need to be that way. Talking down to women, objectifying women, It's men having to go inward and do that work, and that's not easy. So we need to allow, as women, we need to allow them the space to do that as well, because if they're trying to do that, they're really special, because not every man is trying to do that.
Definitely. And I think there's ways of being a man and being truly connected to my masculinity.
Yeah.
So I may still play sport.
Yeah.
I may still fight in the arena.
Yeah.
I may still, draw upon, the depths of my masculinity.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be a dick about it. Yeah? And I think that is the key here. Yeah?
One question I wanted to ask you.
Please.
You work with women as well. You do a lot of healing work with women. Do you feel pressure or stress? Is there any kind of negative energy coming toward you because you work with women? Because I know a lot of people are saying women can heal women, yada, yada. How do you find that space?
It's a good question. I think because I particularly work in the sexual healing arena so I'm working with often pretty deep-rooted trauma that 99% of the time has been enacted by a man. So whether I'm working with that person, that woman on a bodywork basis or a coaching basis, there's obviously it's a quite a vulnerable space for both of us in that experience. So there is risks that I'm taking as well as that they're taking. So it's super, super important that, of course, we have a good level of trust. Both of us do. And the idea that women can heal women, of course, as men can heal men, and there's great benefits that we can get with working with our own gender. And there's plenty of women's circles and women's therapists that work with women and do really, really great work. And there's a level of depth of healing we can go to if a woman works with a male therapist who she trusts. Because the trauma is coming from, or generally coming from a man to that woman. If she can get to the place where she can really allow herself to drop in and to be vulnerable and to work with that deep-seated trauma with another man, it does a massive repatterning of that trauma at a deeper level that she will not be able to get from working with a woman. But of course, that level of trust is really, really important.
She's not only healing, she's healing her connection with the masculine, with men. So I feel that that's a really important thing that you do. And I find that it's a very important space and a very brave space that you exist in. So well done.
Thank you.
Do you find you have more men as clients or women as clients?
Currently, probably about 50-50.
Okay.
For coaching work, sexual healing work, mainly women, but I do also work with men. So, for a lot of my career, I focused particularly with working with men because that was a thing that I was particularly passionate about. It was my journey that I had gone through in my own experience that sort of led me down that path.
Can you tell us about what happened?
For sure. So I'll try to keep it as short as possible. In my early 20s, I went through an assault where I was beaten up by 5 bouncers in a nightclub in England. I was 22 at the time, and I almost died through that experience, but thankfully didn't. Had pretty severe PTSD and depression for several years afterwards. So that sort of eventually led me down a path of wanting to learn about my experience and gain meaning from my experience rather than maintain the position of victim that I was in. So I wanted to grow through it rather than be caged by it, if you like. So that led me down training in many different modalities and eventually becoming a psychotherapist and working specifically with men in that way to help men deal with life. And as I noticed in myself how woefully ill-equipped I was to deal with the difficult situation that I was in and how my world around me didn't want to deal with a man who was broken. I recognized that this was a big issue. When you look at the suicide statistics for men and the overwhelming overpopulation of men in prison and in the homeless community and all of these things, it showed me very clearly there was a fundamental problem.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a part of that, addressing that problem.
Yeah.
And that's developed, and that's moved and that's evolved. And we're now, I think, through that experience, what I noticed that with the men I was working with, one of their most difficult areas was relationship and intimacy. So I made that more of my focus to work in that arena. And it's such a big area of life that we just don't do very well. And we have a lot of baggage around. And
fathers pass it down to sons, who pass it down to their sons.
Yeah, absolutely. And hence it was necessary for me to broaden my work and to work with women as well, as because I was, working with the men, I was only working with half of the relationship. So I do love to work with couples. I love to work with women and men and all humans.
Yeah, everybody.
All humans.
Yeah, because the solution is, it's a solution for all of us. Not, we all need fixing.
I wouldn't go that far. I think we're all perfectly imperfect, but we can all learn to do things better that work better for us. I think we're all fundamentally flawed, and we're all perfect, and it's all about trying to work out how to do my version of life in the best way possible. Not anybody else's version, or not what someone tells me I should do because I'm this or that. But how can I show up in the world, contribute to my life and to the world that I happen to be in the best way possible.
And in a way that feels authentic, owning your masculine energy, owning your feminine energy, being sensitive, being strong, being vulnerable, being
all of it.
Yeah.
And that's it. That is the fundamental thing that I think we're all trying to work out here, is that we can term these qualities of character, if you like, as masculine and feminine. And of course, those terms have got so much baggage associated with them because we have genderized those terms. But now I think we're in this place where we're actually redefining those terms to recognize that they're not gendered, that regardless of what body I happen to be living inside of, I have full access to the whole spectrum of masculine and feminine in any moment. I choose. And I can choose to put myself up the masculine end of the spectrum for a particular context or for a particular relationship dynamic. Or I can choose to put myself down the other end of the spectrum for a particular context. And that's the beauty. That makes us more human, more whole. That way, if I, as a man, I fully integrated my entirety, I don't need a woman for my dose of feminine. But I want it.
And I don't need 10 women. I don't need 15 women.
And vice versa. As a woman who can fully embody and own her masculinity, she doesn't need a man to be there for her. So she doesn't reject a man like I was talking about before when he's feeling emotional. So she can be in her masculinity without denying her femininity. And I, as a man, can be in my femininity without denying my masculinity. It makes me, there's so much fear that if I, as a man, embody my feminine, it's going to make me less of a man. That's bullshit. It makes me more of a man. It's like I can fully be whoever I want to be.
Because that is who you are.
That's who I am.
And that's why you're here. To be you.
To be me. To be me in my entirety. No holds barred, no cage I need to conform to or keep myself locked in, Just show up, be me in all of my awesomeness.
Look at you, Mr. Awesome. Amazing. Nic, thank you so much for being here. You're incredible. Keep doing the work that you do, healing the world. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really beautiful to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry, Nic. Sorry, just one more thing. Your book. Tell us what your book's called.
My book is The Revolutionary Man, The Modern Man's Guide to Life, Love and Enlightenment, brackets, whatever the fuck that means. And it's essentially a very deep autobiographical sharing of my own journey of becoming a man, with lots of really awesome tidbits of wisdom through there that a man can then gain from. And of course, a woman can read and learn about manhood and about their men. Yeah.
You are available for Zooms or?
Yeah, mainly Zoom. So obviously with sexual healing, bodywork, that's not so easy to do over a Zoom call.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally connect with me through my website on nictovey.com. That's Nic with a C, not a K.
And you're based in Sydney?
Kind of nomading at the moment. I'm a bit all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just have to catch you when you're passing by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, Nic, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure.
So much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
One thing that Nic and I forgot to chat about during this episode was that he is also aligned with an incredible grassroots organisation called Top Blokes. Top Blokes work to improve young male mental health and well-being, to reduce suicide and other mental health issues in young Australian men. To support Top Blokes, please head to thelovingpodcast.com and click on Nic. Don't forget to tune in next week when we talk to the inspirational Tara Winkler about the global orphanage crisis and all things white saviour.
At 19, I don't think I'd even met someone with HIV before, let alone a child who didn't have access to medical treatment.
Yeah.
I just felt like I couldn't turn my back on kids that I come to know and just go back to my life in Australia and sort of forget about it.
Big love to you all.
The Loving Podcast is a One Love Films original podcast. It is recorded at Forbes Street Studios, Woolloomooloo, by Charlotte Rushkoot and Nicholas Rouse. Our editors are Zoltan Fetcho and Jenna Chanel Hayes. Our music is composed by Jenna Pratt and guitarist Joshua Gonzalez. Podcast photography and cover art is created by Sarah Fountain. Our behind-the-scenes photographers/videographers are Danielle Mazzucci, Barnaby Downs, Paul King, and Ryan Andrew Lee. Our podcast imagery is created at Innkeeper Studios. I am your narrator, Victoria Jane Hind, and our producer is Jenna Chanel Hayes.